the last 3 years, going on 3 years, I have led 2 restarts in the diocese. One was a latent and boarded up college ministry, and the other was a parish redesignated a mission that had seen, decades of dwindling attendance, and through the years maybe stopped seeing some of their maintenance or just didn't have the workforce to deal with some of the deferred maintenance. One thing that at the parish at Church of the Good Shepherd that I had to both commit to because it's the right thing to commit to, but also to commit to it because it was the only way to establish trust, was to be really truthful. I think sometimes we can fall into traps as clergy, and one trap is to forget that the clergy person is trained in one specific area and equipped in one specific area, but is among a room of experts in other areas, and so to not underestimate anyone that is in the room, right? But walking in and saying, look, this is why I'm being sent here, and it is going to involve change. It just is. But the change is not predetermined. The change is like what we're going to become. And so someone would say, well, this church traditionally, this parish traditionally has been Anglo-Catholic high church. Are we going to keep doing that? And whether I have preferences to certain kinds of worship or not doesn't matter. What matters is, well, what are we actually in this? Like, who are we together? If everyone in this room has not only the preference for a certain kind of liturgical culture, that's one thing, but also has the gifts to make that happen, then that's what we become. But if we actually have gifts that in some ways run a little bit, point in a different direction for like a worship culture or a liturgical or formation culture, then that's what we're going to become. In other words, we're going to become what we are in terms of what gifts we have. But to have integrity in what we do, we have to do what we can well, whatever the shape of that. Like if we're, to use an example, if we're used to like a well-played organ, but we don't have an organist, and we have limited resources and have to make investments in other areas other than music, but we have someone who's a really skilled like guitarist, then that's what we're going to become, because that's what we have, that's what we are. Other part of the truth telling, at least at Good Shepherd, was to also have said right away, we're going to spend some money that the church had in savings that the church had not spent on their buildings. And we had to make the buildings more hospitable. We have to make the buildings safer, cleaner. Right, so the building of trust is always like two works. One is someone who is either appointed as at least a leader in a formal sense, or someone who is a leader in an already established trusted sense, presents an idea, right? And that idea is maybe if it's a perfect idea, all the hands are piling in, but that's not the way it typically works. So then how do you get everyone to put a hand in, or at least not like willingly hold the hand way out, like even reaching neutral on something like that. And that process was not super difficult here because there weren't a lot of hands, right? So that's, one disclaimer is that more difficult to get everybody's hand in when you're dealing with hundreds of hands versus 20 or 30 hands, but for us to reach a point where everyone was accepting of the changes, and maybe there wasn't like a full consensus on what those should be, but there was like a consent to that. It's simple we've all heard it, you know, everyone should have an opportunity to speak and to express their opinion if they want to. But in this case, yeah, there was a little bit of a process of like, what are things that we really need to keep in our renovation, and what are things that can go? And once we found out, hey, so-and-so thinks the rood screen should stay, then, you know, it's not like everybody gets their favorite point. I mean, now we talk.
Everybody gets to make their point.
We get to make the point, and then we need to talk about, okay, so what is it? What's the history of that feature inside the chancel nave, like the rood screen? What's the purpose that it served historically? What's the theology behind it? And once we do that work, then we can go, well, maybe that's not what we want to signal, you know, about our liturgical space. It was just a process of giving up something, of uncovering some of to explore some of the reasons why we like things, and then also to look at our sort of our theological guideposts and some of our, you know, things we value, and do these things align with that? Do they say that? Do they communicate that in the right way? But then also just, you know, like being truthful. And so I really want to remove them in this process of the renovation, but how can we do that in a way that also honors the people who gave these gifts? And